Welcome to The Advocates. I'm Aaron Dean. Marcellas Reynolds is an advocate for his community. He's the first out gay black man to appear on a major network reality show on CBS's Big Brother seasons 3 and 7. He's also made his mark on BET, E, and Style networks. Reynolds has also written 2 books on black women in fashion media called Supreme Models and Supreme Actresses. Now, his 3rd book celebrates black women in music. It's called Supreme Sirens, Iconic Black Women Who Revolutionized Music. The book celebrates artists like Ella Fitzgerald, Aretha Franklin, and Tina Turner. Marcellas, welcome to the show. How are you?
I am fantastic today, and I am so honored to be here today.
Yes, well, we're so excited. So, let's hop into it. You are an actor, TV personality, author, producer, and that's just to name a few. You do it all. So kind of tell our audience a little bit about what made you want to get into the entertainment industry. Who were some of your influences?
Um, I was that little gay kid that spent his time in the house because outside was like, I grew up poor. I grew up on the south side of Chicago. So outside was actually literally dangerous for me. So
Mhm.
I spent my time in the house reading books and watching a lot of television. My grandmother was a stay-at-home. My mother worked, and my grandmother was like lived in the same building that we owned, and she basically raised me. So I watched soap operas next to my grandmother,
Yep.
sit next to my grandmother. I watched all my children, and my grandmother loved like these crazy old movies from like the 40s and 50s, like the Philadelphia Story, like a movie called Stage Door with Katharine Hepburn. And so I grew up watching these movies, and it made me love performances, and it made me love acting. And more than anything, it made me love dialogue.
Mm.
And as I went out into the world, Black people would be like, "Oh, you talk like a white person." And I would be like, "No, I don't talk like a white person. I actually talk like the people in the movies that I watch. And I'm actually just using proper diction. I'm picking the bigger word. You know what I mean? I have maybe a better vocabulary than other 10-year-olds." But that love of television and film made me want to pursue a career, I think, in front of the camera. And actually, I think it's because I was the gay kid that was bullied. That was why I wanted to be seen for who I really was.
Mm.
And I wanted to be seen on a bigger level than just, in the neighborhood. That's why I wanted to do all the things that I've done.
And you have done a lot of things, especially in front of the camera. I mean, you've been on Big Brother, you've been on this TV show, you've been featured here. Tell the audience, brag on yourself a little bit. Where have you been? Tell them where have you popped up on?
Okay, so I guess I always want to start with where I started and where my love is, and what really gave me the groundwork for who I am today.
Mhm.
When I was working my way through college, where I was a theater major. I was an English major and a theater minor, and I got discovered to model. And I always say 30 years and 35 pounds ago, but it was 1995, and the same woman that discovered Cindy Crawford discovered me. And right away, I started working, and I did really well for like 5 years. And then when it slowed down, I became a fashion stylist.
Okay.
And my first job was British Vogue, a cover in 6 pages. And so I've always loved fashion. That was the thing that saved me when I was a kid, because I got a job when I was like 14 working in a women's clothing store, and I was making a ton of money. I've been taking care of my family since I was 14 years old. Um, and then from that career as a model, I was auditioning for acting roles because acting was my first love. And I ended up actually doing Big Brother, and I was the first ever out gay male, black male, to appear on a major network reality show. And when I say major network, I mean NBC, CBS, ABC, and Fox, darling. We're not talking basic cable. We're not talking like MTV. We're not talking Bravo. We're talking the real, a good season of like The Real World is like 2 million viewers. When I did Big Brother, it was 14 million people watched three
Let us
nights a week.
know. Yes,
Okay.
let us know. Yes.
So that was a trail I blazed. I opened that door, and I was acutely aware of that when they cast me on the show. I was aware of the weight and the responsibility of being the first. And being the first is never easy in anything. and I took the hit. But you know, after me, it was Brian Boone, who was the first black guy on the Queer Eye for the Straight Guy. There was a black guy on Queer Eye for the Straight Guy for 2 episodes until the rest of the white guys decided they didn't like him and got him kicked off the show. But Brian Boone came after me for on Queer Eye for the Straight Guy, and then 2 years later, Karamo was on The Real World. I opened the door for all of that representation, and when I see that, when I see black gay guys, I get excited. You know what I mean? And one of the best things about having done Big Brother and then doing E, being the first black gay guy on E, being the first black gay guy to have his own show on BET, being the first black guy to have multiple shows on the Style Network. When I still to this day get people to come up to me and they say, because of you, I came out to my parents. You were the first gay person I saw on television. And that's of every race. That's of every sex.
You have already released 2 best-selling and award-winning art books celebrating Black women in fashion and entertainment. Well, come January of 2024, you'll have a new one that's going to be hitting the shelves. Tell us the name and what it's about. Give us all the tea. Yes.
The 3rd book in the series, and I say that it's the final book in the Supreme series, is Supreme Sirens, Iconic Black Women Who Revolutionized Music. It is, again, the first ever art book devoted exclusively to Black female musicians and singers. And I came to this like Supreme series because what I discovered being a book lover and a person who collects art books, books on photography, books on fashion, books on design, was that so often there weren't books that told or completely included Black people. 3 books in 5 years is a lot of work. But I'm terribly proud of the I call it the Supreme Universe, the work that I'm doing, because for me, it's about, I want a little Black girl to be able to walk into a bookstore and see a book that represents her.
Yeah.
So she can feel seen. I want a beautiful book that sits on coffee tables all over the world right next to the Tom Ford book or the Chanel book. And that's what we were missing in that space. And Abrams, my publisher, and I'm so grateful to them because we made the decision to make our books relatively inexpensive. You know, the Rihanna book was like $200. The Tom Ford book is like $125. My books are like $50 because I want people to be able to afford them and not feel like it's an extravagance. But I also want those books to look like they deserve to be sitting next to the Rihanna book, next to the Tom Ford book, next to the Chanel book, next to the Peter Lindbergh book. Black culture is American culture, period, full stop. And so one of the reasons why I've created my books is because I didn't feel like we were exalting Black culture in the same manner in which we were exalting white culture. But now that these doors are opening up, and one of the things that I love and I hope is true is that with my success as a writer, as an author, I hope it's easier for the next brown person or the next gay person, whether they be male or female, to do what I do, to write a book, to be able to walk into a room and say, I have an idea. And when that person says, no, that idea won't sell, they can go, wait a minute. Marcellas Reynolds has done 3 books, and he's Black and he's gay, and his books are about Black women, and they include the whole diaspora of Black culture, and they include LGBTQIA people. So these books will sell, and there's a place for it.
Supreme Sirens, Iconic Black Women Who Revolutionized Music hits the shelves January 23rd. And thanks so much for watching The Advocates. Download the app in the Apple or Google Play Store to stream us live, and you can even subscribe on our YouTube channel. For The Advocate channel, I'm Aaron Dean.